we go. Whoa, he's a nice chunky pollock. Hello, good morning. Today we're going to be travelling out from the south coast of Cornwall on my 16-foot boat, and we're going to be fishing over the inshore reefs, generally between 30 to 90 feet of water, with lures and live baits, hopefully targeting things like pollock, bass, wrasse, those type of fish. That's the plan. We have got a beautiful morning. Let's go and see if we can't find some fish. First order of the day is to try and find some live baits. Now we are on an area of reef, which means that the seabed goes up and down. As the tide runs over that seabed, it causes disturbance. That's why you can see the area of unsettled water where we are now. Coupled with that, today we have an easterly wind that's building. An easterly wind's coming in this direction. The tide is going in that direction, so we have wind across tide. As the tide slows down, this chop will drop away. All I'm fishing is I'm fishing some sabiki lures. Oh, lost it. It's in the boat, counts. I'm fishing sabiki lures for... back over the side now, that one. For sand eels and lawns. That is what we're trying to catch. And all I'm using is little tiny size 12 lures. If we can catch ourselves a dozen of those, we'll go and try and catch some bass and some pollock with them. These lures, when they come brand new, they come with a barb on them. You might notice that these fish are bouncing off these hooks very easily. That's because I've crushed the barbs on these. The reason why I do that is because it makes them easier to unhook. They're better if you handle them less. So I'm just going to have to move off that fishing gear. Now that that's live bait's taken care of, we'll go and move to a deeper part of the reef and see if we can't catch some bass and some pollock. Fish, like humans, are inherently lazy. If they can find an easy way of doing something, they'll do it. So when you're looking at an area of reef like this, when you've got pinnacles, if the tide is going in one way, on the back side of these pinnacles will be slack water. The fish will hold up behind them because they're out of the current, they're out of the tide. They aren't having to expend as much energy swimming because there's not as much current behind. So what we're going to do is we're going to drift over the top of these pinnacles with a live bait on a float. All you need to do is you need to look at what the shallowest depth of the reef is going to be. If you're in a reef and it goes like down to 90 feet but up to 30 feet, you can only ever set your float at 30 feet, otherwise at some point you're going to get snagged. So I've worked out how deep the reef is going to be at the shallowest point. I've set my float at just shallower than that, and we're going to run a drift over the top of it. My live bait setup is really simple. You don't need anything overly complicated. All I have is a large sliding float. This is a 141 gram float with a locked in lead matching the size of your float. A clip to a swivel, so you've got a separate detachable hook length, 3 feet of 20-pound fluoro ending in a 6/0 Chinook style hook. I've offset it. Take one of your live baits, and hook it up. There you go. Now just a gentle toss away from the boat. You want your float to be a distance away from the boat. Not only so you're not underneath the shadow of the boat and you're not around the scare zone of the noise, but also if you've got it at a little bit of a distance, it gives you time to react when the float drops. This is my light lure setup. It's a 7 to 24 gram Abu lure rod coupled with a Penn Class 2 3000 being the size. I have loaded that with 25 pound Power Pro braid and I have a 20 pound fluoro leader on. And all I'm going to be fishing today is soft plastic swim baits with a lead head. Anything between 30 up to 60 grams, depending on the depth and the tide. That's something you've just seen me do there, is when casting with braid with a bit of wind, after you finish your cast and you collect the bail arm, just give it a gentle pull because it makes sure that the line is tight to the reel. If you put a slack wind of braid on there, if your first wind of the handle is slack line, you can leave slack braid on the spool. The next time you come to cast, too much braid could leave at once and can create what's called a wind knot. Also, it's good to check what the drag's like. Once I've got the float at a certain distance away from the boat, just engage the bail arm and you drift with it. At the moment, tide is just dropping away. We're just coming up to high water, so it's slowing down. The drift at the moment is 0.8 knots. So instead of cast and retrieve, I'm doing more of a sink and draw method with the lure. Being that I let it sink right to the bottom, just give it a few bounces on the bottom so as if it's swimming up and down, and then wind it up to the surface. Because the area where we're fishing is really snaggy, it's really up and down, you have to be on the ball about where your lure is. See that? There's the live bait, there's the hook, there's the pollock. Just pop the hook out. Now this is a good size eating fish, but we're after bigger. Wasn't paying attention to what I was doing. The snag's gone in that way, so you're better pulling it back out that way. When you're drifting over a reef and you pick an area of pinnacles that you want to drift over, if you consider this being like the main pinnacle and you've drifted over it like that, when you come to steam back round, you don't want to steam back over it, you want to steam around it and drift over it. Because if you steam straight back over it, the sound of your engine can scare the fish away. So yeah, you'll drift over it and then steam round it to drift back over it. fish. You see the float go down? Oh, just shaking the hook out. There we go. Similar stamp to the last one. Still a lovely looking fish, aren't they? When returning fish like pollock and bass, when they're still fully green, when they've got all their fins up like that and they're ready, you can put them back head first. Just drop them straight back head first. I know they're there. Yeah, the live bait's working well. Well, that's no good. What I'm doing is, as I'm drifting that way, if you cast your lure up, as the boat's drifting that way, I cast my lure up ahead so it sinks and I'll drift. So I'll end up straight up and down on top. Well, it's about time. Lovely looking fish, isn't it? There's the lure. They are a cracking fighting fish. I don't know if you can see those sea lice on there. Fish. Probably a wrasse. There you go. A little ballon wrasse. Oh, fish on. Floats down. Oh. Fish on both rods. Double hookup. First one. Put him in the live bait tank, let him sit in the live bait tank. Anyways, a nice chunky pollock. See this area what we've just had these two fish on? We've been drifting this same area now for probably 3/4 of an hour. The only difference being that the tide's now running. There we go. And the other one, oh, I tell you what, these two could be twins, couldn't they? Where's me tweezers? Where's me tweezers? Just go in through the gill. Let me. Yep. Open up, I can't see. Take hold of the bend, turn the hook, and pop it out. There you go. If you go in the mouth, you can't turn the hook. So if you go in through the gill, turn the hook round and pop it out. One back. Oh wow. He's swallowed that lure. He's absolutely swallowed it. I'm not sure if I'll be able to get this one out. There you go. Another stunning pollock. Well, that was productive, wasn't it? You see, the fish have just come on the feed with the tide. As we were drifting around, as we were going backwards and forwards and having nothing, that was because the tide was slack. That was because it was right at the slack part of the tide. As soon as the tide started flooding again, the fish would come on the feed again. Yeah, double hookup. You might have noticed, as that tide started to push again, it created that chop. Given the conditions, we'll make this our last drift. That was a cracking little session on the pollock. I'm glad we took the chance of that weather window before the easterly wind picked up. I think you could probably tell by the end of the session that the conditions had got quite bad. In fact, actually, I think that the double hookup that I had at the end, one on the lure and one on the live bait, I think the wind noise might have been too much for the audio. My setups were very simple. Just a sliding float with a locked in lead, and that was fishing sand eels as live baits. And my other rod was a 7 to 24 gram Abu rod, fishing swim baits. And my reel is a Penn Clash 2 3000 loaded with 25 pound Power Pro braid. Just keeping it really simple and having a lot of fun doing it. I hope you've enjoyed joining me. All the very best. See you later.